What's going on, champs and champettes? It's FireMonkey here, and just the other day, the FNCS Global Championships has officially come to an end, and if you're someone who actually hasn't been keeping up with it, but you were curious, Peterbot and Polo were the ones who actually ended up winning the FNCS Global Championship for 2024. Now, based on my knowledge regarding FNCS and their recent tournaments in general, Peterbot and Polo have basically been the winners for the past few years now at this point when it comes to the FNCS. You know, in the past they came in second, with the Invitationals and everything else. But for the past few years now, 2023 and 2024, first place, non-stop, back to back to back to back. So congratulations to those people. But with that said, in today's YouTube video, we're not here to talk about anything going on there. Instead, we're here to actually talk about the changes going on to FNCS's competitive scene going into 2025 and some interesting things they're going to be experimenting with, which is going to cause an old feature to actually return to competitive modes in the near future. So at the very end of FNCS Global Championship 2024, they had an announcement that mentioned the following bits of information. Firstly, they mentioned that the FNCS 2025 tournament is going to be a trio style instead of the normal duos we've seen for the previous few years. Trios was how it used to be a long time ago, and then they kind of stopped doing that, right? They dwindled it down a little bit more, made it duos, and they kind of stuck with the duos format. However, now going forwards, they're revisiting trios once again and making it the core mode that they focus on when it comes to the competitive scene in Fortnite, especially when it comes to the FNCS scene, which definitely means that going forwards, especially in future seasons and everything else once we get to 2025, we'll probably start seeing a lot more competitive cups that are in the trios format instead of being in the duos format, just so people have more experience getting their squad or a trio to get together and everything else for FNCS if they do end up competing, because typically whatever the FNCS squad size is, that's typically the size of the tournaments we end up getting in the game. On top of that, they mentioned that it'll have an $8 million prize pool this time around, which I think is around $2 million more than this year's prize pool, so they're increasing the amount of money that is actually going to be thrown around for people to actually win from competing in FNCS Global Championship 2025, but the most important bit of news actually came from the very last segment they talked about, which is Siphon Trials. Now, to explain what Siphon Trials are, according to Epic Games themselves, it will be a series of test tournaments that will test different variations of Siphon to figure out which one is going to work the best before Siphon officially returns in competitive. Now, we're not for sure as of right now if by competitive it means just tournaments, just FNCS, or if it also includes ranked mode as well, but considering the fact that they've been testing a lot of different changes for ranked mode, I wouldn't be surprised if Siphon actually returns not only in the compete tab tournaments, but also in ranked mode officially for the first time, so that whenever you eliminate someone, you're able to actually get, health and shield back from that elimination. Now, for people wondering why they would be testing different versions of Siphon, they basically are going to be doing this to figure out which type of Siphon they actually want to implement into the game officially, and what should be the meta Siphon effect that actually goes down when FNCS 2025 actually starts happening. The reason I think they would have to test different variations of this is because we've seen them kind of mess around with different variations of Siphon before. The typical Siphon we've seen from Epic Games standardly has been the whole entire Siphon where it's like you eliminate a player, and then congratulations, you're able to go ahead and get some shield and health back from that person you eliminated. However, it's not the only type of Siphon they've done before. Through augments and some items, we've actually had damage Siphon, which is a less common version of the whole entire Siphon effect that they've been doing, but it is one that they could potentially revisit and make the main effect this time around as well, in order to make it so it's, not the same Siphon we've always seen over and over, but also a way for them to innovate it and kind of keep the gameplay a little bit fresh here and there by changing up how Siphon has always worked based on how we've known the core mechanic itself when it was enabled normally to work before. Now, of course, these are going to go through test tournaments first so they can tinker with all the values and everything and figure out which one is going to work the best. So there's a chance we get damage Siphon, there's a chance it stays to elimination Siphon, there's a chance that Siphon isn't going to be as powerful as it's been before, or there's a chance that Siphon becomes super powerful this time around and actually causes, a lot of craziness to actually go down. I mean, imagine if you eliminated someone, instantly went back up to full health and shield, right? Instead of having just like 50 health or 50 shield granted to you, there are a lot of ways for them to actually tinker with Siphon this time around, and I think them going ahead and doing test tournaments first before actually officially putting it into FNCS is a nice way to get that feedback early on, but I do think it was wild when we started sharing this news on social media, and some of the people were actually confused on what Siphon was, because it's kind of been out of the game for so long that according to Twitter, and the dubbed word that I've seen people throw around is Nugents, have have no clue what Siphon is because they weren't around when Siphon was a big part of the game. Maybe they had Siphon from an augment or something, or maybe they had Siphon from one of the heisted weapons from before, but they never had it actually described to them as a normal Siphon feature, because back in the day, you know, we had like the Siphon LTM and everything else. Whereas nowadays, it just seems like a buff that gets added onto certain effects or weapons or augments, and seeing how augments are basically gone now, we don't really have heisted weapons anymore, and my aim is apparently gone as well, but let's be honest here, that was never here to begin with. Maybe not, never mind, hold up. But, you know, seeing how they've actually messed around with it a lot of times before, it does kind of feel like they're trying to bring back that old spark that the Fortnite competitive scene had before, by going ahead and bringing back, you know, things people have asked for in competitive for the longest time, being Siphon, but also bringing back the old formats as well. It just kind of feels like this huge push to bring Fortnite's competitive scene back to the old days, and maybe considering the fact that we've been seeing more and more of these in-person events, we might end up getting another World Cup someday, right? But, you know, considering the fact that FNCS is kind of like their bread and butter right now, and knowing how, for example, Rocket League doesn't really do a World Cup too often or anything like that, they just kind of have the RLCS, I wouldn't be surprised if it's just the FNCS going forwards, and every year, you know, they switch between the different locations. So since it was in the UK last year, it was in the US this year, and the year before last year it was in the US as well, I wouldn't be surprised if we end up getting another FNCS in-person event that happens in the UK or somewhere along those lines. But with that said, hope you champs and champions enjoyed today's little YouTube video. If you did, consider subscribing and support the content I create. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about Siphon officially returning, and what do you think about the changes going on with FNCS in general? Do you think they're doing this because they want to bring back that old spark that Fortnite competitive actually had a few years ago, or do you think they're just doing it to change it up because we've had duos for such a long time now, so it's like, might as well give us a little bit of a change, even if it does have some nostalgia feel actually built into it. But until next time, I'll catch you champs and champions a little bit later with another video, and let's go ahead and eliminate these bots to end off this episode. Hold up, wait, actually, okay, you know what? Peace out, bye!